some point, I will hit this other button. Good morning, LinkedIn. Welcome to another Monday edition of Let's Build Your HubSpot Map with Brian Osa. How you doing, man?
What's up, everyone? Doing fantastic and really excited for today's episode and showing off some of the stuff that you and I have been building behind the scenes.
Yeah. And I thought it was a good opportunity, of course, to show off some cool stuff that we think it's cool, at least.
Yeah,
And
but we're
but
nerdy about HubSpot, so that makes sense.
yeah, and nerdy about content too. And I think if you've been following me at all, like I think there's a ton of opportunity when it comes to doing content in different ways and just kind of understanding that if you are listening to the market or your customers or your advisors, somebody's probably telling you that you need to try and stay top of mind,
Mm-hmm.
for whoever you are trying to get to do something at the end of the day. Like whether it's trying to buy your product, maybe learn your product, maybe understand their problem, and really accepting the fact that a buyer, somebody in your target market, has all these different ways that they gather information, do research, consume content. That I like to put it as simply because as like, just imagine like if you had access to your best event. Almost every company has an event that they go to or that they have gone to for a long time that uh, provides a lot of value from the in-person interaction. Like there's no disagreement on how valuable those in-person activities can be.
Mm-hmm.
But just imagine if that event was running every day of the year. Like how often would you stop in and see if there was a conversation you could be a part of? Uh, and like how much would you be willing to miss if that were the case and you knew showing up would result in the kinds of relationships that can build a successful business, right? Probably way more often. And you would kind of prioritize that in a way like, okay, what can I do to make sure I'm there? Because I know if I'm not there, I'm not a part of the conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's online. That's places like LinkedIn. This is the conversation. That's where it's happening. But we know that you're one person, you're a small team of people. You cannot be everywhere at once. Uh, and when I say things like, content first marketing, content first sales, content first service, it's because if you come at it from that perspective, that's the only way to scale yourself, your
Mm-hmm.
expertise, your knowledge is by creating content yourself, grabbing the expertise from your head and putting it into a video, putting it into a podcast, putting it into an article,
It doesn't really matter what it is. It's
right?
just share your knowledge, share that wealth, and put it in a way that is engaging, understandable, and most importantly, applicable.
Right. And you're doing this every day already
Yeah.
in all of the sales conversations you're having, in maybe your internal one-to-one conversations you're having. And what we're about to show is, I made a concerted effort to say, hey, like Kyle Jepson has figured something out to try and keep up with the HubSpot, product updates. While he hasn't been able to keep up on his own, he's done a magnificent job of creating new types of content, new channels, like his daily, updates video, his weekly admin hug. Now he's got a weekly LinkedIn show. He's always active as a brand evangelist, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
why aren't we seeing, more people doing it like Kyle? Why aren't we seeing HubSpot doing it like Kyle? Like, why are we having such a hard time, replicating that kind of successful channel of education? So instead of being the one to talk about it and complain about it, said, hey, on March 18th, I'm just going to start going live every day. And it's done so much. And we're going to talk through, there's a combination of strategy and also just got to start getting it out there.
Yeah.
Like a little bit of throwing spaghetti at the wall, I'll be honest,
Mm-hmm.
but I've learned so much that I think that in most cases, it's like, okay, we're going to do this content strategy. We got to figure out all of the messaging and all the positioning. We got to figure out everything
Mm-hmm.
before we get started. And then we start doing it. And, we don't get the attendance numbers, or the feedback we get is a little bit off and the message isn't landing right. And we start to blame like the content or the fact that we're doing it on LinkedIn, or, all these other things that in reality, like, since you weren't doing the content, like, you're missing out on this feedback loop, right? That gets created and kind of all over the place right now. But that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of where I've been in terms of like, let's just get started,
Oh yeah.
right? Let's start, because what the thing I've learned the most is by getting started, that's where the real learning happens, right? So if I were giving advice right now and we're about to go into, you know, a lot of content
Mm-hmm.
that I prioritized in a very specific way, right? I had to deprioritize a lot of other things to do this, and that might not be the case for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I would challenge you to say, hey, you don't need, first of all, if you have expertise, right? You have something to share that's of value. If this is winning you one to one sales conversations, then how can we have that conversation in front of other people, right? On a platform like LinkedIn? Because
Mm-hmm.
just that transfer of doing it over here instead of over here goes a long way. And the feedback that you get related to that is better than almost any other part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh yeah, you're entirely right, and I really love the aspect of just diving into it and getting your hands dirty. And when you mentioned just diving into this and putting it live on March, I think that was really kind of a pivotal moment because, you know, like we've known each other for a while, we've been chatting for a while, and lots of other folks who we've gotten input from this throughout time have been in this HubSpot ecosystem and even like RevOps, business ops for years. And over that time, we all amass a huge degree of information and knowledge. And I know that's something that I've been doing. I have a massive drive, which you've seen, that has all kinds of information that we're throwing into this resource. It's going to be showing that's hopefully going to be showing people how to tackle all these things very tactically, very step by step. But there's a lot of it that is less about getting just the content out, which is what we've been doing, but doing it in a cohesive, consistent way in a centralized place. Because I think that's was part of the challenge that we found here, and I know even what we were discussing is that you were doing things on your own. Other people like, Tony, who's on the show earlier today, he was doing things on his own. Danielle, all these people who we've been having these conversations with, putting together this knowledge and sharing it out. But we're all kind of doing it in silo, which is why I'm been really excited and passionate about everything that's been Let's Build is that no longer doing that. It's now all in one place, and we're able to take just an absolutely overwhelming amount of information. For example, like this Miro
Ooh.
map that I'm way zoomed out on, you zoom in and realize, oh my goodness, business strategy, business plan, starting a business, technology stack. And you kind of go through everything that is sub branches within HubSpot. And this is all stuff that we're collaborating on a daily basis. We're talking about constantly. We know inside and out, but not everyone does. So we're putting it in a way that it can be digested a little bit better,
Yeah.
which is what has led to, you know, the daily show that you've been doing, which has been brilliant, is like it's a lot of what it's the first step of this whole process. And so, let's build daily. Just where that's been the main point of everything that's been coming out so far. But the whole point of today's show, which is hint, hint, wink, wink, this isn't the only thing that we're working on. This is the appetizer or hors d'oeuvre, so to speak. And
Well, it's an important part of the puzzle
yeah,
for sure. And the puzzle
absolutely.
that we're referring to is this HubSpot knowledge gap that's been created. And, places like the knowledge base, places like community.hubspot.com
Hmm.
have proven to no longer be sufficient, for many of the people that get there looking for an answer. So
Why?
this gap has been
Like,
created since like, I kind of talk about it like HubSpot turned the Salesforce competition switch on in like
hmm
2020. We got custom objects, start getting Operations Hub, Commerce Hub. We start building all this stuff. Even CMS, when it was like, okay, they've created a $25 level, they're going to start competing with WordPress now. Like, all these things have happened, and we can no longer rely on these other tactics because these teams just simply cannot keep up with the content enablement
exactly.
that they had, right? There was this blogging mechanism that HubSpot owned, blogs every day. We knew that they owned SEO that created this habit of bringing everybody to knowledge bases and blogs and community.
Hmm.
And now we have a different HubSpot. We have a customer platform now, which is
Hmm.
is very different, and it's very easy to find, either misinformation or a lack of information to try and get
Or just too much information
right.
to answer something that you want simple.
Yeah, and it's like this interesting, like, weird moment where there is definitely an overwhelm of resources available.
Hmm.
Um, but what I was seeing, and again, like inspired by Kyle and his approach to just getting on and doing a video every day, and then we're on the admin hug every week, and it's okay that the HubSpot view changes, like, and it catches the presenter off guard. And like, this is HubSpot daily life, right? But all the
Hmm.
resources out there are like, 1, 2, 3 done tutorials, or, very high level strategy that is in a vacuum, not a lot of application to specific, businesses and
Hmm.
use cases in those different markets. So like, how can we, start to support that? And that's where all this was coming from. And, the biggest inspiration from Kyle was not the short form videos, it was the cadence, right?
Hmm.
Because if they're updating products every day, which they
You got to
are,
share those updates every day, otherwise
you
you're
have
going to
to
get lost.
create content every day to
Yeah.
share that information. And but not only create content, it's so great last week in the show with Danielle, like,
Hmm.
Danielle and Matthew Ruxton, we were both able to bring up the new property workflow or the new
Hmm.
property flow when creating properties. And the fact that, it was important to me to just start creating this space. Like, it was just me, but now we're scaling it to other people being involved. Now that we have the channel and the space to talk about stuff every day, it doesn't matter which update shows up, right? Like,
Hmm.
we have a place to talk about it. And usually, uh, the experts in the room are passionate and they can talk about this stuff, not just like hey, here's what it is, here's what it does, here's why you need it,
Hmm.
right? It's like, what does it actually
It's not the
mean,
sales pitch. We're all
right?
using this too.
Yeah, and actually moving through it and asking questions like, well, I thought I was going to do this. We'll try this out, but this is how I'm used to doing it. And I can tell you what, like, if you want a relationship with the HubSpot product team, this is a guaranteed path. Like,
Hmm.
the unboxings I've done, and that was just a simple, like, hey, this is working on YouTube. People have built livings off of unboxing random products. Let's just see, like, start unbox content hub when it comes
Hmm.
out. Like, unbox this. If I'm seeing it for the first time, there's so much value in sharing that, like, that first time experience with others.
Hmm.
Just like we're used to in the consumer goods world. So finding a way, we can't have the knowledge silos like you were getting at. Like, how do we share knowledge? How do we share it at scale? How do we share it every day? Right? That is the goal here, because there's no shortage of expertise in the ecosystem. But instead of creating all these different resources separately, we've got to find a way to come together. Because in that map that you showed, it's
Mm-hmm.
very easy to say, okay, this is the map. Now I'm going to go and I need somebody for this topic and then this topic and this topic. My approach was, hey, who wants to talk? Like, who could show up and talk about something? And what are you passionate about? Let's start there, right? Because ultimately, creating the proof of concept or the example, like, yes, we can start doing this every day. We have enough people. People are not the problem. We just have to understand the process
Mm-hmm.
it takes to create knowledge every day and then make it accessible, right? So the first level that I've accomplished on some level is getting it out of people's heads, right? And
Mm-hmm.
onto video. Now the next level, which we're about to dive into, is making it accessible through, channels. Cause I got a lot of feedback about, like, oh, LinkedIn, and I knew this, right? This was a sacrifice I made by choosing to do it in this way.
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn Lives is not easy to go back and find, the one that you want or the topic that you
No.
missed, right? Unless you do all this special bookmarking or you ask me, right? It's very hard to get to. So creating YouTube channels, creating website pages like that is what we're working hard on right now.
Yep. Yeah. And so just sharing that, that's just the first part of what we have coming for you. And let's build. Like everything that you've seen so far all exists within a nice, detailed, organized format. So you will very soon be able to just hop on in and click into any one of the shows that we've been airing and ignore the myriad of pictures of me, because it's just kind of the template that we've thrown together, at least for now. It's just placeholder imagery. But we have this for every single piece of content that we've created here. And that's all we have, all of that loaded, archived, documented here with a Notion. And so we're slowly getting all of this content up and loaded over on to a more accessible resource for you. And in tandem with that, like, it's not just that. We're also building things that are tied to a lot of stuff that I was talking about several weeks ago with Cartographer. That's a lot more, instead of being video form, which may not be your interest, maybe more written form and tactical. Like, we're putting together how to tie all this information together. And the beauty of all of this, in my mind at least, is that we're doing this all in a way that's not focused on us. Because very bluntly, like, speaking on my behalf, like, I'm I'm kind of a philanthropist. I don't really like, I just want to help. And so if I'm able to point people in the right direction to get them the solutions that they're looking for, I think I've done my job. And so, similar to what you're talking about bringing these people into the room who are all equally experts in their own way, all passionate about HubSpot in some way or another, everything that we're creating within this Let's Build ecosystem is very much a, hey, this exists. This is why it's cool. If you want to learn how to do it, here's a quick abridged summary to get started. But if you want to dive deep, talk to this person or talk to this company or talk here, talk there. And we then are less, we don't want to be necessarily like academy or knowledge base or anything in that space. Like, all of this information often already exists. And if we just become another tool doing that, it's another voice that's competing on the overflow of information. Our goal is, more importantly, to take all that information and distill it into a quick, accessible resource so that you can take that a step further. And as part of that, I know like a lot of the folks that work that you're seeing who are coming on the show daily, like they're all working in their own businesses. They're all helping their clients achieve similar kind of goals. And so by extension of that, when we have this centralized resource of information put into play, we're also working with these individuals that who can step in and help you out in that more one-on-one component so that if you do find yourself getting stuck, you won't anymore. And that's why I'm so immensely excited and passionate about all of this. And I know I've been trying really hard to keep it all under wraps for a little while because, like you said, like there's a lot in this, and just because it's being shown now doesn't mean it hasn't been here for good gracious. When did we start actually pulling all this together, Chris? Was it like probably like a month after you started doing the Daily Show, maybe at
Yeah.
best?
Yeah. Something like that. And just
Yeah,
to kind of like pay off what we said we were going to talk about
yeah,
today, like this is all, and the reason I'm going to tell you that I can get away with this and maybe not everybody can, but this is the kind of stuff that we can
mm-hmm.
help you do or that so we're just going to show like, this is what's in my mind, like as I get started. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that if I start here, which is the whole, like, that's the lives that I started doing every day. Right. If I start here at some point, and it doesn't have to be immediate, it certainly hasn't been, we can get to the rest. Right. So there's been a little bit, we're moving beyond just LinkedIn. Brian shared a page, but to even get to this point, right, there's ways to just, do a one off, like I
Mm-hmm.
started doing on StreamYard, right? And there's less, I think I didn't have the pro version like for the first 2 weeks. So if I show you HubSpot and I show you these, like I didn't have a transcription, right? Until I got to April 3rd, because that's when I went to the next level. Like no recordings were being saved in StreamYard. So for these, they only live on LinkedIn, at the moment, and that might not change. Uh, so then as I stepped it up and I got the next level of StreamYard, I started having recordings, I started having transcripts. And before I make that change, all of this stuff gets a lot harder, right? So the tools, and that's where like when we say like building the strategy, like understanding which tools you're going to use,
Mm-hmm.
like Riverside, like Content Hub, like allows for thinking like this, allows for this big picture. If you don't have those tools and you expect your marketing coordinator to be able to just take the live video and then make all this stuff happen, which is a lot that happens every day, like it's an effort. So if that's how you think about this process, of course it's overwhelming. Of course you don't have the bandwidth to do it. Uh, like, but the fact is, and that's what we want to help, by just sharing kind of the process here, is when you have something like Riverside. So I can see all the recordings, you know, I can come into today's, with Tony, right? That I just had right before this show. And I can say, generate full episode, add captions and remove silences. I'm just going to click that, right? I've got transcriptions, I've got separate recordings, and the amount of money. So, like, list price at the level that I'm at is $500 a year. If you like can use that to go from like one video per month, which is what you settle for when you don't have the process in place and you think you want to do this stuff, and you can take it to once a week or once a day, which is what your market requires if you want to be top of mind all the time, like that is well worth, the $500. And then as we do that part, a little bit better, now we can come to HubSpot, and we use a combination of HubSpot and Notion to manage these projects, right? We come in And we see podcasts, blog, website pages, right? Remix. When I click onto that, and even using these templates, promote content to a wider audience, and I use templates. Like, this gets better every time I click on it. Uh, but like, I can bring the transcription into here, and then from the transcription, I can do blog posts, social, like,
It
and
just
in
becomes a
each one of these,
distribution vector.
right, there's an AI prompt, as you
Mm-hmm.
do it. So like, this is the kind of thing, and this isn't like push button, get content, right?
No,
You got to be involved in the beginning, the middle, and the end. But with a tool like this, especially if you already have, Content Hub Pro, right? Like, you have the ability to reach the kind of scale that we're talking about. And this is why I say the hardest part is deciding that you want to do it, that you want to match customer expectations. You're not going to hide behind oh, we can't do it because we don't have time, right? Because you never have time when you look at it like that. You will never have time, right? But that means you're not a part of that daily conversation, right? So if you want to be a part of that daily conversation, which is how you close knowledge gaps, understanding that tools like this, right, will take you, you know, unimaginably far compared to, what you're used to,
yep,
right? And understanding that these are available helps you to understand this is why the transcript is so important when I do this. It's not a nice to have, right? It's just like, this is the whole product. If I have the recording, if I have the transcript, if I have the audio, now I can do these three things, right? If I don't, I can't.
yeah, yeah. Said wonderfully, and I would add emphasis on that of just like, as you're thinking about even going in this direction, like that's where it comes back to the aspect of like making sure your business strategy, your map is ready to go, because it's something that is, it makes a huge difference. And we can talk about that all day, but a big part of it is making sure that you can be equipped to handle that, because like we've been alluding to, like it's not exactly a light amount of work, and that's fine. We're more than happy to keep throwing all this together, and I know the folks that we're working with are happy to kind of coach through that too. But making sure that you're at a place where you can start doing that is the biggest part of the challenge. And if you don't think you are, that's okay. But the where you can easily get started on is just, it's one word. It's documentation. Whenever you do something, write it down. Doesn't matter what that is. Just write down what it is, and keep track of what that looked like in terms of the overall process when you're working together to build that out for your specific client project. Because as you're doing that, that then can become something that's a reusable product, a template, something you can talk about, and then very easily and quickly turn it into a content based strategy that will put you front of mind every single day. And that's, I know it's a lot of what we're preaching, because that's what we've been doing, and that's kind of what the foundation of Let's Build is right now. But the deeper part of that is that it also builds some pretty important business aspects too. It is a very sure, quick, and easy way to start implementing tools like project management, which is going to help you scale your clients. It's going to be a quick way to start building a portfolio, which you're going to be asked about when you're looking to kind of expand your client base during sales conversations. Not only that, it gives you a quick way to show off the success stories. So if you're like, oh crumb, I need to get to the point of doing case studies, you know exactly who to talk to about. And then not only that, it also gives you a wealth of knowledge and resources that you can then replicate across other work. Because while no two clients are the same, you can probably bring over some aspects from other work. And all of that kind of lends itself together into this one package of what we're talking about today. And that makes a huge difference. And all of that is why that's why we're having fun building Let's Build, and why we think that this approach is going to be super valuable for anyone else who's interested in doing something similar.
Yeah, and we want to support, anybody that has knowledge to share. You haven't done this
Mm-hmm.
before, maybe you're thinking about it. And here's the thing, like, it's my favorite part of digital is that it's templatable.
Mm-hmm.
So many of these processes, I mean, you watch people on LinkedIn or other social, somehow they are creating videos every day. And it's not because they just forget about everything else in their life and focus on videos. They've figured out how to do this at scale, which means it can be done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're struggling with where you might start, first of all, we'd love to be able to help. We're
Oh,
still
good.
adding
Yeah.
shows and experts. My ultimate goal is to help create the space for experts to have their own shows and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're having a hard time, first of all, if you serve customers, you are providing a value to them which is worth paying for, which means you have expertise that's worth sharing. And start with those one-to-one conversations that you're having every day. Like, are there any of those that if we just had them in a different format, like now we're creating content, right? So if you're struggling with where to start, think about, things that are on your mind, things that you wish more people knew, the questions that you're answering all the time. How can we get that, into content? And that's often the best place to start because you're passionate. uh and I'll say another learning has been like the lack of preparation required to share it, in this way, because we're going live, we get a little bit of, permission to, go deep and go on tangents, and
Mm-hmm.
you know and that's okay. And the fast pace, especially in the ecosystem, like the difference between going live and doing on demand content is going live, I have permission to see a different page in HubSpot that I'm not used to, right? If I were to, how many times have you planned to do an on demand tutorial and then you get to step 3 and you're like, oh, shit, that's different. I gotta,
That's different.
I
That's
gotta
broken.
redo it
Oh
now.
no. Yeah.
Or
All the time.
you publish it on the page and then HubSpot updates it next day,
Mm-hmm.
and now you got to take it down. So the work that you put in, right? So all of this to say, like, we need to give ourselves permission to, actively share knowledge in a much more consistent way if we want to help people, in the HubSpot ecosystem specifically, but just help people with the pace of change, the pace of product, the pace they know they need to go for their businesses for growth, but they're having a hard time getting there. So hopefully
Mm-hmm.
this is helpful just to, shed some light on that.
Really, really echo all of that sentiment. And again, I want to reshare just if you have any thoughts, questions, or feedback you want, please share it, because that's going to help us build this better and more in the direction for what all of you are looking for. Because ultimately, like, that's a big part of this goal. Yes, we're doing this because we love it and we have fun with it, but it's only good if it serves a purpose that helps who we want to help, and that's you. So share that with us. That's going to give us a whole bunch of value in order to kind of build this out further and further for you. And
And this is
as
the
we're noting
part.
on that, like, all everything we're talking about here, the it's all gonna be live starting this week. Like, there's things that are coming. Everything you're seeing on the Let's Build page here, we have that. The site's is right on the brink of going up. We have a placeholder page, and come on, come join, share.
And this is the part that, I'm trying to get better at adding in now, right? These other channels. helping you keep up with what we're doing, the multiple shows that we're having each day. So we've got, Let's Build Media Showcase page. So give that a follow. And, through there, and after today's show in these comments, we'll share some more links to that stuff, so you can follow along and be a part of this. So
Yeah.
as you think about, the kind of content you'd like to see, or how you're learning, or maybe the conversations you're having, that maybe could be expanded or could be accessible to more people, find the opportunity and let's grow. Have a great week, everybody.
Yeah. Take her all.